Something is currently moving through our solar system. Something fast, silent, and not from here. It's not following any known trajectory. It doesn't behave like an asteroid or a comet. And its speed alone already defies the logic of gravitational capture. Join us on the enigmatic journey of why, as we delve into another mystery surrounding 3I/Atlas's final transmission confirms what we all feared. This is not just another rock drifting through space. This is a visitor, but not the kind that passes by. Because this time it left something behind, something no scientist can explain. For the third time in history, Earth has received a traveler from the stars. And this time it's not silent. It's broadcasting a final transmission, a signal, and it might be trying to tell us something we were never meant to hear. In today's video, we dive deep into what 3Atlas really is, what its mysterious behavior reveals, and most importantly, what its final transmission has just warned the world about. It started quietly between June 25th and June 29th. The Atlas system, a network of telescopes in Hawaii and South Africa designed to alert us to potential planetary threats, picked up something strange. It moved fast, faster than any typical asteroid. It came from a direction that made no sense. And by the time it was confirmed by NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, one thing was already clear. This object was not part of our solar family. It was interstellar. Just like Oumuamua in 2017 and Boris in 2019, 3Atlas had entered from the cosmic deep, a rogue traveler, possibly carrying the history of another star system. But there was something different about this one. Oumuamua had confused astronomers with its odd shape and unexplained acceleration. Boris, while still strange, behaved like a comet. But 3Atlas was brighter than it should have been, faster than it should have been, and most mysteriously, its origin traced back roughly toward the center of the galaxy. Not just a nearby star, a deep ancient place, a place where stars live and die. This was not an accident. This was a journey. When something flies through our solar system, we expect gravity to be the only force acting upon it. Every comet, every asteroid, every planet, their paths can be predicted by Newtonian physics. But 3Atlas immediately began to behave differently. Observations from telescopes across the globe in Chile, Japan, and Italy began to detect slight deviations from its expected orbit. Deviations that couldn't be explained by planetary gravity or solar wind. The term used by astronomers is non-gravitational acceleration. In other words, something is pushing this object, but it's not gravity. That's the same phenomenon that drove Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb to suggest that Oumuamua might have been an alien probe because nothing natural behaves this way. Now he's back, and this time he's pushing for something even bolder. Using the James Webb Space Telescope to interrogate 3Atlas, not observe it, interrogate it, to detect the slightest anomalies in its light signature, its emissions, and possibly even its thermal footprint. Because Loeb suspects that this object, bright, fast, and precise, may not be just a rock. It might be technology. On October 3, 2025, 3Atlas will pass near Mars. 20 days later, it will reach perihelion, its closest point to the Sun, and Earth will be on the opposite side. But right now, as it moves closer to our planetary neighborhood, something has already happened. A series of observatories, including several tied to the Very Large Array and Deep Space Network, began detecting radio anomalies from the object's direction. At first, these were dismissed as background noise. But when analyzed further, a pattern emerged. The signal was short, burst-like, and repeated over intervals of prime number sequences. This is not how natural bodies behave. Nature doesn't speak in primes. Intelligence does. For weeks, astronomers kept it quiet, fearing backlash, ridicule, or worse. But a few brave researchers leaked the signal to independent analysts. And what they found may rewrite everything we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. Because this wasn't just noise. It was a message, repetitive, purposeful, and strangely beautiful. It wasn't static. It was harmonic. Some described it as a song written in mathematics. Loeb's recent publication went even further than before. He didn't just propose that 3Atlas was artificial. He proposed it might be designed to be seen. A signal flare meant to attract attention. its brightness, its unusual emissions, its trajectory through the solar system that conveniently avoids collision. All of it, in his view, seems intentional. In fact, he even went so far as to call it a cosmic mirror, a device that not only broadcasts but reflects. The idea is both chilling and awe-inspiring. What if these interstellar objects aren't random? What if they're part of a network? Ancient self-replicating messengers launched from dying civilizations or hyper-advanced species that understood the nature of deep time better than we do. What if Oumuamua was the first probe, Boris, the sensor, and now 3i Atlas, the broadcaster? If that's the case, then what it's transmitting now is not just a warning. It's a status report, and we unknowingly just became the subject of its transmission. As the James Webb Telescope continued tracking 3i Atlas across multiple spectral ranges, infrared, ultraviolet, and near radio, analysts began noticing something unsettling. There were no outgassing trails, no debris, no thermal spikes from sublimated ice. In other words, it wasn't losing material as it approached the sun. That alone defies cometary behavior. But the real shock came when Webb detected what could only be described as a localized suppression of background radiation in a narrow field around the object. In practical terms, 3i Atlas appeared to carry with it a kind of shadow, a region where cosmic microwave background noise, the very fabric of space, was being absorbed or, worse, filtered. One astrophysicist compared it to an observation lens, as if the object wasn't just emitting signals but capturing high-resolution data from everything it passed. Stars, planets, moons, and Earth. This could mean that 3i Atlas is not just a visitor, it's a surveyor. And if it's collecting information at this scale and precision, we have to ask, who is it sending that information to? While most of the focus was placed on the technical and astronomical anomalies, a team of neurobiologists at a European university working in collaboration with SETI researchers found something chilling. During the window of strongest radioactivity from 3i Atlas, a spike in synchronic EEG anomalies was recorded in sleep labs across multiple countries. Subjects with no knowledge of astronomy reported similar dreams, all involving circular structures, glowing symbols, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched. One described it as a mirror made of sound. The patterns in brain wave activity matched the frequency bands being studied in the radio bursts, especially around 1420 MHz, the hydrogen line commonly used in SETI protocols. The hypothesis is radical but increasingly supported. 3i Atlas's signal may not be designed to reach machines. It may be designed to reach minds, not through language or visual cues, but through a form of resonant imprinting on the human subconscious. If that's true, then we're no longer observing it. We're interacting with it involuntarily. As the object approached the inner solar system, researchers expected thermal emissions to rise, especially with solar proximity. But James Webb revealed the opposite. The object's internal temperature remained shockingly low, hovering near 50 Kelvin, colder than expected even for deep space debris. Yet, it remained active, emitting structured signals and accelerating as if powered. This paradox led one group of physicists to propose a chilling idea. 3i Atlas contains something inside, something preserved, something dormant. The thermal insulation and the energy emissions do not align unless the object is a cryogenic vault, preserving material not meant to awaken until a specific set of conditions is met. What kind of material? DNA, artificial intelligence, self-replicating machines, or something else entirely? What if the object is not the message, but the messenger or, worse, the payload? One that's waiting for alignment, a trigger, or a command from us or from something watching. As current data flooded in, a retired engineer at JPL unearthed a forgotten transmission file from the Voyager archives. In 1978, while Voyager 1 was en route toward Jupiter, it registered a weak signal that was dismissed as system interference. But this new review revealed a pattern, one identical to the transmission currently coming from 3i Atlas. And yet, this was decades before we knew about interstellar objects. How could Voyager have detected the same signal? Unless this signal has always been present, or worse, unless this is not the first time 3i Atlas has been here. One chilling theory emerged from this discovery. 3i Atlas may not be a single object, but a recurring agent cycling through systems, activating when certain criteria are met. The engineer's final note in the recovered file reads, "It's not a visitor. It's a reminder of what no one knows. But what's certain is that the final transmission of 3I Atlas is not a beginning. It's an echo, and it's ringing through time. Shortly after 3I Atlas's unusual signal intensified, internal documents leaked from a classified observatory network in the southern hemisphere revealed the activation of what was labeled Atlas Protocol Tier 3. The document, filled with redacted segments, outlines a coordinated global observatory blackout for a 72-hour window, specifically during the object's closest alignment with Earth's orbital plane. What's deeply disturbing is that this blackout wasn't due to technical maintenance or budgetary constraints. It was intentional, a deliberate silence ordered across observatories in Chile, Australia, Namibia, and even portions of the European Southern Observatory Network. Several astronomers broke protocol and published anonymized data showing what the blackout tried to cover. A coordinated shift in signal output, as if 3 Atlas was waiting for Earth to reach a precise geometric orientation, and then it changed what it was transmitting. Some believe the object temporarily stopped observing and started responding. Using multi-instrument data from ground and space-based telescopes, an astrophysics team discovered a strange pattern in how 3 Atlas's light reflected across different spectrums. Its brightness didn't just fluctuate naturally. It changed in harmony with Earth's rotation, not randomly, not due to solar input, but as if it were syncing with our planet's angular momentum. When converted into a three-dimensional light curve model, the reflected geometry created a pattern eerily similar to a Fibonacci spiral, not once, but repeating with each cycle. This spiral formation appeared to center not on the sun, but on Earth itself. It was as if the object was scanning us, not just with electromagnetic emissions, but with reflected light algorithms, a technique some AI theorists claim is more efficient than radio for visual cognition across distance. That suggests 3 Atlas doesn't just see us, it understands us. In a remote archival system buried deep inside a Nordic supercomputing facility, researchers stumbled across a declassified Soviet-era document from 1985 detailing an observation of a non-natural celestial mass that briefly entered the solar system, lingered near Neptune's orbit, and emitted a repetitive pulse. The object was never identified, but when the pulse data was compared to the current signal from 3 Atlas, they matched perfectly. The Soviets had observed this before. The object had been visited before. Worse, they referred to it as Zvesta Trinadzea, or the 13th star. In Slavic mythology, the 13th star is a forbidden omen, a bringer of judgment, of cycles ending. If the Soviet record is accurate, this isn't the third interstellar visitor. It may be the first, repeating in intervals we fail to see. And each time it returns, it learns, adapts, and adjusts. As pressure mounts for public disclosure, a group of fringe scientists has proposed something that sounds like science fiction, but fits the facts far too well. They believe 3 Atlas is not simply a probe or message carrier, but a test, not of weapons, not of civilizations, but of cognition. The signal's patterns, its geometric alignment, its synchronization with brain wave activity, and even its deliberate ambiguity, all of it suggests that the object's true function is to determine who can understand it. Not everyone, just a few, a small subset of the population, those who can tune into its message and perhaps become the receivers. This theory posits that 3 Atlas doesn't want mass contact. It wants a filtering event, a narrowing, a selection, a harvest not of bodies but of minds. And the final transmission, it may not be a warning at all. It might be a confirmation that the harvest has begun. A team of geophysicists monitoring anomalous magnetic flux beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet detected a powerful yet brief electromagnetic pulse. At first, it was believed to be a technical glitch until 3 separate stations thousands of kilometers apart recorded the same spike within milliseconds of each other. What made this event extraordinary was not just its power, but its frequency signature. It matched the core harmonic frequencies of the signal transmitted by 3 Atlas. Not similar, identical. Scientists were left speechless. There was no known way for an interstellar object millions of kilometers away to trigger a localized magnetic event beneath Earth's crust. Unless the transmission wasn't a broadcast, but an activation. That raises a terrifying possibility. What if Earth weren't just the observer of this object, but part of its intended target system? What if there's something buried deep within our planet, dormant and forgotten, that 3 Atlas was designed to wake. While mainstream academia scoffed at the idea, a cryptography group working with ancient astronomical codices uncovered a shocking alignment between 3 Atlas's trajectory and patterns found in the Maya Dresden Codex. In one of the final glyph pages, there is a depiction of a serpent descending from the sky, coiled in spirals, each turn marked by a distinct symbol associated with cycles of destruction and renewal. When mapped against the 3I Atlas's current path and its approach timing, a pattern emerged. Every serpent coil correlated with a major civilizational collapse. The fall of the Akkadians, the Mayans themselves, the Roman Empire, and the sudden disappearance of the Indus Valley civilization. Each event is spaced by roughly 400 to 500 years. If this pattern holds, the 3I Atlas would be the trigger of the next collapse cycle. And what's worse, the codex ends at the precise point corresponding to this decade. No continuation, just the final spiral and silence. All transmissions from 3I Atlas ceased. Not tapered off, ceased abruptly, as though a switch had been flipped. Telescopes worldwide confirmed the object was still there, still moving, still accelerating. But now it was completely silent. No emissions, no radiation spikes, no thermal variations. It was like watching a corpse drift through space. But the implications were far more unsettling. In SETI terms, this is known as a dark signal, when a transmitting source deliberately powers down, either to conserve energy or to avoid detection. The fact that 3I Atlas went dark right after passing through its closest solar approach suggests intentional behavior. It had completed its mission. Whatever it was meant to say, to trigger, to observe, it's already done. And now it slips away into deep space like a ghost, leaving behind only questions and perhaps a countdown. As data analysts rushed to compile the last intercepted signals before the object's radio silence, something astonishing happened. Files stored on independent servers began showing signs of corruption. Not a technical failure, but structured degradation. Segments of the signal, especially those resembling encoded binary pulses, began to self-scramble. Attempts to preserve them in isolated drives failed. Even paper printouts showed minor artifacts, ink distortions where the signal's mathematical waveforms had been visualized. Theorists now believe the transmission contains self-limiting data designed to collapse after being interpreted a certain number of times, like a message written in sand, readable only once before the tide wipes it clean. If that's true, it suggests one final horrifying implication: that 3I Atlas never wanted to be understood by the masses, only by those who were meant to see it, just once. And now that it's done, the rest of us are left with noise and the lingering sense that something has changed forever. When linguists and cryptanalysts were granted access to the full waveform patterns of 3I Atlas's final transmission, something extraordinary occurred. Embedded deep within the signal was not random noise, nor pure mathematics, but what one researcher described as structured linguistic architecture. FM-like clusters repeated at intervals with rhythmic modulation. The spacing resembled syllabic cadence, and when translated into a spectrogram, the waveforms began to take visual shapes, some that echoed ancient symbolic scripts from Earth's distant past, uniform protosynthetic, even markings found at Bekelte. This couldn't be a coincidence. It appeared that the signal was not just sound, but a multimodal message encoded in ways that bypassed our current language systems and possibly designed to interface with prelinguistic cognition. In other words, it wasn't made for us to translate. It was made for us to remember, as if the message was not new, but buried inside us all along. In a last-ditch effort to triangulate the full structure of 3I Atlas's signal, an independent team in Japan performed a lunar bounce, aiming a compressed packet of the object's signal toward the moon and measuring the echo. What returned was unexpected. The reflected signal came back distorted but not chaotically. The waveform had shifted in a way that introduced new, never-before-seen harmonics. Essentially, the moon had modulated the signal as if something in its crust or magnetic anomalies had recognized the frequency. This led to a disturbing realization. What if the moon is not just a reflector, but a recorder? Ancient civilizations spoke of the moon not as a natural satellite, but as a construct, a beacon, or even an arc. If 3I Atlas's signal unlocked a hidden function in the moon's resonance field, then perhaps this interstellar object is communicating with elements of our solar system that predate us or our memory of them. As the object continued to drift out of our solar system, several missions were proposed to intercept its path, including a nuclear-powered microprobe from the ESA. But before deployment, leaked documents from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory revealed internal concerns that stopped the mission. The concern wasn't technological. It was psychological. Within the object's reflected light signatures, analysts had discovered frames resembling a perfectly symmetrical rectangular void, a region of total light absorption unaccounted for by angle, surface, or spin. It wasn't just dark. It was missing. Theorists instantly drew comparisons to Arthur C. Clarke's concept of the black monolith, a silent trigger placed by an intelligence far beyond ours to observe evolutionary thresholds. Was 3I Atlas that monolith? Not symbolic, but literal, a threshold probe, silently tracking the development of cognitive civilizations and appearing when the next stage is due. So, who is watching the watchers? Perhaps the most staggering revelation came not from what 3I Atlas sent, but where it sent it. As James Webb and the Deep Space Network recalculated the object's trajectory post-perihelion, they discovered a subtle but consistent orientation, a realignment of its axis toward a specific point in deep space. After triangulation, it was determined the new heading matched the coordinates of TRAPPIST-1, a star system 39 light-years away known to harbor at least 7 exoplanets, 3 of which lie in the habitable zone. The object had broadcasted its final, most intense transmission not toward Earth, but away, as if to report back. But the timing is critical. Because of the inverse square law of light and the 39-year distance, the signal will reach TRAPPIST-1 in the exact same month that Voyager 1 reaches the edge of the heliopause. That can't be coincidence. That is coordination. And if that's true, then 3I Atlas is not alone. It is part of a larger system, possibly an interstellar relay chain connecting minds, systems, and watchers. We spent decades listening for a voice from the stars, expecting words, greetings, or warnings. But 3I Atlas didn't send a message the way we expected. It didn't speak to our radios. It didn't announce itself with noise or fire. It slipped in, observed in silence, and when the time was right, it whispered something into the fabric of our understanding that only a few could hear. And now it's gone, but not before activating something. Not in the sky, not in the oceans, inside us. What if the final transmission wasn't meant to explain anything? What if it wasn't trying to tell us something, but trying to see who would react, who would decode it, who would remember? Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. 3I Atlas didn't arrive uninvited. It was expected. Ancient symbols anticipated it. Our myths described it. And when it aligned with our sun, our moon, and our minds, it didn't blink. It watched. It measured. It judged. Thank you for joining us today on Why. Let us know your opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen for more mind-bending content. Keep waiting for another exciting Why adventure, and until then, stay curious and stay tuned. This is Why, signing off.